So, Richard Elms, welcome to the Disenfranchised. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thanks, Ed. Thanks for having me.
Good, good.
How
Yeah,
are
it's,
you?
it's it's good to see you again. We spoke a little while ago, and yeah, it's good to see you again. And hopefully, things are progressing well for you at the moment. And you last time we spoke, you were looking at moving into Belgium, or that was just started, right?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, since we spoke then, actually, we've grown. We've had someone's just agreed to buy in the whole of Northern Ireland as a master franchise. So all good. Yeah, Belgium's now kicked off. A few less clubs than what we planned, but I gave him a bit of advice saying that you might be, doing too much.
Yeah.
And I was, they've opened 40 clubs next year. They're going to open a further 20 and a further 20 and go from there. So on a whole, all good. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good.
Fantastic. Sounds like you're busy, but before we go into kind of detail on the business, let's start with your first job. I'd be interested to find out what your first job was.
Well, my first ever job was actually in a garden centre on a Saturday, and that lasted all of 3 weeks.
What happened?
I just didn't want to go. That was pretty much what happened for 20 quid. Yeah, so I just didn't go. So and then I just kind of stopped going. And then I my next job, I went to college and I was part time in a company called Zaga, which is a clothing company in
Okay.
the Chelmsford area in Essex. And I got sacked from there. Um, not my proudest moment either, but my girlfriend invited me on holiday last minute, and I didn't have the courage to turn around and say that I was going on holiday. So I wrote a letter and posted it through the work letterbox. And then, to my reply, I said, "Don't bother coming back." But I was, which is fair enough,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
expected that, but I had a lovely holiday. Um,
Excellent.
um,
And how
and
old were you at the time?
I was only I must have been, I just started driving. So I think I was about 17.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think when
So,
you're that age, though, right, those sorts of things happen, don't they?
yeah,
It's all about the priorities of that age, I guess. And
100%.
yours was
A
your girlfriend in the
million
holiday.
percent.
Was it somewhere good? The holiday?
That was the thing as well. It was in Barbados. So it's like, you know,
Very
and
nice.
she was like, come along with her family. And I was like, oh, God. But yeah, I did. And of course, I never went back then. Um, so yeah, definitely like at that age, it was your priorities, I suppose, are a little bit different. And not only that, I always knew I was never gonna. I always wanted to work for myself, really. So it was like this, it was just to get me through college. Um,
Yeah,
so
beer
yeah, that was
tokens
probably
or
my
whatever, right?
first. Yeah, exactly. That was my first ever proper job where I was there, and I worked in a bar as well at the same time. So I wasn't scared of working, but I was also not scared of doing what I wanted to do, I suppose, in that respect. But yeah, that would have been my first ever job,
Yeah,
proper job, I'd call it.
that's fair enough. So, kind of, where did your career go from there then? Because that sounds like there's a few kind of yeah, jobs here and there, supporting you through college.
Yeah, I was actually I was in sports science at college. I've always been quite sporty, so I've always had a sports background, where be it football or going to the gym or whatnot. It was always a sports background. So I did my sports science, and then what did I do after that? I've done a lot of I did a lot of stuff. I went off traveling. I worked for my dad for a bit, and then I went off traveling and traveled the world. I suppose went Bali, Thailand. I sold my car. Bali, Thailand, Australia, New Zealand. Traveled around. Come back, and I was working a bit for my girlfriend's dad, doing bits in his. He had a steel business, so I was like selling. I was always quite good at talking to people and making relationships. I suppose that's one of my key skills. So I did that, and that really wasn't for me. That didn't end badly, but it was just as it happened. I was. It was a massive change in career. I never knew what I wanted to do. Really, that was the whole thing. It's not
Yeah,
that I just jumped from job to job. It was just like I was a bit of a free spirit, I suppose. And I just chose to do what I wanted to do. And I was walking down, I come out of Top Van in central London, and someone come up to me and said, have you ever considered modelling? And I really hadn't, really. I actually, believe it or not, I don't like the camera. I don't like being in front of the camera. But I hated being in an office at the same time. So I thought, do you know what? Meeting people could be fun. I ended up doing that for 7 years, 7 years, around that time, of in and out of London, going to castings, lots of weird, crazy, fun experiences. And then
so this was modeling, right? So what was this for? Kind of magazines, for kind of catalogs, that kind of
Oh yeah, it was everything really. So I had a mother agency in London. I knew nothing about the modelling game, and my girlfriend then, she turned around and she said, you know, that's like quite a big modelling agency. It's like one of the biggest in London. I was like, well, I don't have a clue. But I went there, and they've got some big names on their board, and they took me on, and so that was my mother agency, which they put you out to castings, but then from that they put you across the world, really. So I had an agency in New York, Miami, Germany, Milan. I didn't do as much traveling as I should have, but I did. I had them out there, and then I did music videos and did things like Fila, New Look, lots of different weird. Everywhere we look, you actually see there's work for models. People don't even really recognize it, but if you see any sort of TV advert, that's a model. They've just gone through the same process, been casted. So there's a lot of work out there for it, and for different looks of people. I just didn't like it, to be quite frank. But so that was my job for 7 years. Yeah.
So why stick at it for 7 years then? You kind of shown that, if you're not happy and not enjoying something, you're not worried to make a change in your life, right? So what made you stick at that one for 7 years?
Good question. It had its ups and downs, and I got very fortunate with I had a regular job. So I had a regular job, and in modelling you don't really get regular work. You want to hope that you get the big jobs that earns you X amount, that sees you through. Is very inconsistent. But I had regular work in the fitting game, believe it or not. So fitting is where you like, it was for Jack Wills, Burberry, and Timberland. I was doing it. They have a regular build of person, their regular customer, and they'll measure clothes around their regular customer. So they look for someone, which happened to be me, which is their regular size, 32 waist, kind of, your standard for their customer. And I kind of fitted that criteria. It was horrendously boring, but it was regular income. I do it 3 times a week, and then, at that time it was quite a good little income for me. So because I could do 2 or 3 days a week, earn a bit of cash, still have great fun, still go out with people, I knew it wasn't a career, but I also knew it was probably sweeter than a lot of people's kind of lives at that time, because I had to work 2 days a week, and I could go out and meet people, do what I do, which was have fun, I suppose. At that time I was doing a lot of having fun. So that's the only reason I stuck at it. That was the only reason I stuck at it for that long. And trust me, it's never that I was ever scared of working, but I did not know what I wanted to do with my life. So I was never one to then say, well, I'm going to stack sales in Asda. Not that that's a bad job, but I just wouldn't want to have done that just to see through some time and make some money. I think at the time I'd rather have nothing and enjoy my life a bit more than go and work at a 9 to 5. So this kind of worked for me at that time, because I didn't know what I wanted to do.
That's fair enough. And you said your dad had a business, right? You worked for him for a little bit in your kind of earlier days. What business was that, and was that not something you kind of like the look of doing?
No, I worked there, and I worked for my dad owns a company called Elmdale Welding and Engineering Supplies, and another one up in Scotland called Steve Weld. So it supplies, everything in welding. And I worked in the warehouse. That's where he put me. Yeah. And I was like, he's old school. Put me at the bottom, work your way to the top sort of attitude. So put me in the warehouse, made me do my fork truck license. and I worked with an ex-sergeant major in there.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
and a old guy that smokes about 80 cigarettes a day. And I was just the wind-up. So, I mean, I remember he had his own seat, and he used to fall asleep in his seat. And I remember I used to wait till he was asleep and tie his shoelaces together, and then just wait till he got up, and he was a and he'd chase me around the warehouse. And I remember I locked him I locked him in where we'd eat lunch in the warehouse bit. I locked him in. So no, it was never really a career that I think I was ever going to make it. But I had no interest in welding. I have to have a common interest in what I'm doing. Otherwise, what's the point? For me, I don't want to just be in a job. And I tell you what, the reason is you want to look forward to Mondays, in my opinion. Monday is the start of the week. If you can look forward to Mondays, then you're doing something right.
Yeah, I think it's quite a brave attitude to have, because there's so many people out there, and I probably include myself in that in some ways in the past, where it's just...
Hold on, Ed, I've heard your story, and actually, no. You make changes as well.
Okay, maybe at certain points in my career. I mean, yeah, when I left school halfway through A-levels so I could earn more money to go out drinking and playing football and stuff like that. Yeah, okay. But there's been other points in my career where I've just turned up to the job every single day just because I just need to make some money and I don't know what else to do, right? Moved into recruitment more out of kind of necessity to make my brain work, because putting up marquees wasn't kind of challenged me in that way, but it still wasn't really what I wanted to do. So what I think that's my point, right, is that until you know what you want to do, there's no... I think it's brave to keep on looking for that right role. It's a lot easier to sit back and just do the same thing day in, day out, and just kind of sit there dreaming and wishing you could do something else. Which
100%. But if I agree with what you're saying, but don't you think that if you don't kind of live a life where you've gone a bit more free-spirited, then actually, I believe that if you do that, you tend to learn and things come your way a bit more. Where things that you just enjoy naturally. So I never knew I was ever going to be good with kids and like, and teaching kids and having fun. It just kind of fell into that path. But I suppose if I just got into this, so when I got a city job and I just got into that mundane of life of every day, I'd probably still be there now, thinking, Jesus, it's nearly Friday. It's Friday tomorrow. Perfect. I'm going to get 2 days off.
Yeah. That's really interesting, because that's basically where I got to the point with wanting to create this podcast, right? So other people can educate themselves that actually being a business owner doesn't always have to be this big risk, and one of the most important things is to go out there and do the things that you want to do, or find the opportunities that are out there that are going to suit your lifestyle and what you and do something that you're actually going to enjoy, And I think sometimes people just always look for this big idea, or I'm never going to be a Premier League footballer or something like that, So what's the point? But actually, there's ways that you can get involved in those worlds that actually fit your skill sets and allow you to enjoy it,
I couldn't agree with you more, like massively. You're spot on. Like if you want to get involved in them ways of life, them worlds, you do. I mean, I was always a dreamer, but I wanted to be a professional footballer. But now I know a lot of footballers, and ex-footballers, and through my team, when I go to see my team play out where we sit, I like the chairman, I'll have a chat with him and things like that, and he you've kind of built that path without even knowing you're building that path. If that makes sense.
Yeah, sure. And I also think, that let's stick with Premier League footballers, right? So us as viewers only get to see kind of the more glamorous side of it, right? The 100%. Playing the games and driving the fancy cars or whatever. But actually, behind the scenes, there is a ton of hard work that goes into it, right? It's not just messing around. That their diets are impacted. They're having to monitor every single thing that they take into their body. They're having to train, constantly. One injury can have a massive impact on their career. That could be it over, and they're short-lived as they are. So
spot on. And it's funny you say that, because there's a professional football playing at the moment, that I was speaking to about potentially getting involved with baby ballers in a way, because he was like, I'm 28 now, I need to start thinking about what I'm doing. And he's got property and things, and he played Prem 2 years ago. He was playing Prem 2 years ago. So he scored against Man City and things 2 or 3 years ago. And he's a friend of a friend, and he was saying to me, I'm not going to mention his name or anything, but when they dropped down from the Prem and they got a new manager, he was on the bench, and he was constantly on the bench.
Yeah,
and he's a good player. I mean, he was at one point in his team, he was the top 2 to be picked to go up to Prem standard because he was that good. But he got dropped, put on bench, and he said to me, I said, the last 2 years have been the most depressing time I've ever had. Now he was out without a club, and he was just saying, I'm really struggling. It's tough. Now he's playing again. Now he's playing for a big team actually in League One. And you don't see this side because everybody just thinks loads of money. You're playing football every day. But his girlfriend, who I know, I grew up with through school, she said it's a nightmare because, we're here, 1 minute we're living here, next minute we're up north. And she said, like, I love snow skiing as an example. He can't snow ski. He's not allowed to. And any footballer's not allowed to go snow skiing for obvious reasons. So everybody thinks it's this glamorous lifestyle. And actually, I've not been in it, but from what I hear and what I see, it's not as glamorous as you think.
Yeah, it's funny because maybe, I guess, as sad as it sort of sounds, the way that I got into recruitment, right, is I was looking for any job to get me out of that marquee world, right? I just needed to find something. And I looked at the person who I was sitting in front of, who was asking me all these questions. I thought, you've got a fairly easy job, like a fairly cushy thing. Anyone can do it, right? And so I set about trying to get into that world. And then once you're in that world, what you realize is actually it's a lot of cold calling. It's a lot of no's. It's a lot of stress, pressure in terms of KPIs to hit and things like this. And actually it's really tough. It's not just sitting there dishing out jobs to people, No. So I think you can have a perception of an industry. Sorry?
It's competitive as well, like recruitment agencies side of things, isn't there? So much out there.
It's ruthless. Yeah, it's ruthless. Yeah. So, but things on the outside don't always translate once you kind of dig into it. And that's why I think some of those values that you have to kind of go through and identify within yourself are really important, right? So, what actually am I going to enjoy doing on a day-to-day basis? Not just the kind of end result and the job title. What is it on a day-to-day thing that we happy to do? And if it's, making tons of calls, then sure, recruitment's probably the one to do. Yeah,
you've hit a nail on the head. Like, I've got a little one, and his dream, he plays academy football now, and his dream is to be a professional footballer. So he always says, whenever we put a wishbone on the chicken, he always, so what do you wish for? You know what I wish for, Dad. And I do. And I just know anything. That's all he says. That's all he wants to do. And he's one of them where he'll work hard to try and get there. But I would never, ever say to him, he can't do it. Because at the moment, that's his dream. That path might change. And when that path does change, I'll follow that one with him. And it's funny because my dad, he used to say to me, don't put all your eggs in one basket. It's a challenging thing. You might not be able to do it. And I think it's the worst thing you can say to a kid. I say, if you've got a dream, go and try and do it. If that dream changes, try and do that dream. And I think that's just, if everyone kind of takes that attitude, I think that actually you'd get a lot more happier people, because the happiest people I know, they're in the job that they want to be in. As an example, because it's a big part of your life, isn't it? It's a huge part of your life. Something you're doing from a Monday normally to a Friday on a whole. It's just things that give you everything you want in life, be it holidays, be it houses, cars, whatever you want. That job is pretty much, unless you've got a very healthy parents that give you wealthy parents that give you everything, or had a big inheritance or won the lottery. On a whole, your job, which you do, impacts your whole life. Isn't it? So it's important,
and it gives purpose as well, right? And that's another important thing, I think. Over the years, when I've spoken to people about why they're changing careers, a lot of the time they'll say it's for money, they don't feel valued or whatever it is. But I think that's almost like a secondary thing, because when you sort of scratch under the surface, they just feel like they're just repeating the same thing over and over again and not getting anywhere, or it's not having an impact like they want to. You know, there's always something else behind it. And I guess we all just want to live fulfilling lives. And I personally think it's, you know, the media and society have just kind of taught us that money's the way to achieve that, when it's not always the case, right? You don't have to be a millionaire to be happy. So
you 100%. You wouldn't believe how many times I've been at work, and it's very, very rare. But when you have them bad days as a director, and you do have them bad days, sometimes you do think to yourself, I'd quite like to open just a little water sports shack on a beach and live there. You know, but them challenges are what keep you coming back. But
yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
so,
you know.
So I was just going to say, let's kind of move on in your career a little bit then, from kind of the modelling to where you are now, to starting Baby Ballers. So how and why did you start Baby Ballers?
So as I say, I was modelling. I hated it. I didn't hate it. It was an easy life. But I met someone, and me and her had a little one, who's now 8. And I took him to a little football class when he was 15 months. So as I say, I've always had a background in football. And I took him to a little football class, and I was just watching what they was doing. And first one, I was like, I just think I could do this better. I didn't really, 15 months of having a child, I didn't really have much experience, but I felt I was doing a good job as fathering. As being a father, and and kids seem to like me, which is quite important. So I just thought, I'll give it a whirl, and come up with a name. Turned up. I did get some help as well, obviously, because I'm not very clued up with like social media and that sort of side of things. So I got some help in doing this first class. I just rocked up with some balls, cones, and I didn't actually even coach the first one. I asked someone that actually used to coach 5s and above to come and help me.
Okay.
But he's actually, believe it or not, he's now a franchisee of Baby Ballers, and he's actually got he owns 4 clubs himself, and he's going to hopefully take this on full time as a school teacher, but he's looking to potentially take this on full time.
Cool.
He's a great guy, really great guy, and he helped me, and he did a really good job. And I learned a little bit about what he was doing, and then he said he didn't want to do it, and I was like a bag of nerves, really. I thought, oh no, I'm going to have to do it. And then I just discovered actually I'm quite good at this. The kids love it. I used to write down sessions, come up with sessions, and that was my first club. At the time, at this specific time, to make ends meet, I was also working with my brother. He owned a gym. And he's got a big background of franchising. And I decided to do another club on a day that I didn't think would work. So we did Chelmsford on Fridays, and we did Mondays after school. I just thought they were 2 ends of the week where people could potentially have arguments in regards to Monday, end of the week. Does anyone, start of the week, Monday, does anyone want to come straight from London, for example, take the kid to a toddler football class?
Yeah.
And then the end of the week, you're thinking, it's Friday. A lot of people might want to put their feet up, relax after a long week. So I thought they're days that I think that could be challenges. But they both sold out. So and I was like, okay, this is quite good. And then I started taking knowledge from my brother and support on the whole franchising side of things. And trust me, from what I've learned, is franchising and having just a business of a toddler, they're 2 completely different businesses. I look at it as like coaching kids. People think, oh, you should be good at everything. Well, no, I was really good at coaching kids. I wasn't very good at the franchising side of things.
Yeah,
that's my honest answer. I don't try and be. If I've got other people around me that are better, then I take their advice. Don't try and be the person that knows everything. There's that saying that I picked up that says, "Fear the man don't fear the man that does 1,000 different kicks. Fear the man that does 1,000 kicks, the same 1,000 kicks." I think something along those lines. And it's so true. I could do 1,000 classes, and without being arrogant, I feel like they'd be the best classes. So I will give people advice on them classes, like, this is what you need to do. This is how you need to interact with kids. This is how when you get level, you need to be eye level with children. when you come into the class being person, that's where I'm skill set, and I'm good with people, and I can talk to people and parents. But the actual franchising side of things and going through that rigmarole, I'm not good at. But fortunately, I had my brother, which really supported me on the manuals and the admin and the accounts, and which is a completely different business. It really is. So my brother came on board in the end with me, and we make a good partnership in them aspects, and it's really grown from there. And kind of simple as that.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, it sounds like you sort of stumbled upon the thing that you enjoy doing, and it ties in kind of some of those things that you've wanted, you know, which is that sporting side of things. I feel like that's through your career what you wanted to kind of be involved in and get into. But I guess, when you've got that dream of being a Premier League footballer, no one ever kind of thinks generally, actually, instead of doing that, I could just coach kids, right?
Exactly. There's lots of avenues. There's so many avenues you want to be in football. There's lots of different things. It's not even just coaching. There's so many different things. You see people involved with clubs, the backroom staff of clubs. There's a lot in it. And you're right. You know, I kind of made that path. I loved being a dad. I still love being a dad. It's more hard work, I find, but it's I love being a dad, and I loved being him growing. I loved learning what he was learning, you know, be it shapes, colours, numbers. I wanted to know. And then I thought, well, let's chuck that into our classes, you know, with a football, chuck that in there and develop classes around that. And that's really how it's come.
Yeah, it's interesting, because that's actually something I wanted to ask you is within your classes then, so you're 16 months to 5-year-olds, right?
Yeah.
So what kind of other skills are the kids learning? Because I'm guessing it's not all about football from what you're saying there, right? There's shapes and colours, but what kind of other skills do you think they're picking up?
Oh, the list is endless. Like interaction, for instance, confidence, obviously your general, the colours. So, you know, 16 to 2, they're normally learning their colours. We make shapes out of the cones, sharing. There's just, you know, movement in itself. I mean, I can tell you a really nice story, which is one of the for me, one of the best things I ever heard. And that was, I got close with a parent and 2 parents that had this little girl called Olivia, and they were the nicest parents in the world. And she had like mild cerebral palsy, but they religiously took her to our class every single week. Yeah. By the time she was hit 4, the parent come up to me and he said, I just want to say thank you. I said, well, what for? And he said, well, we take her to the physio, and the physio said to me, her development of movement has actually dramatically increased over this period of time, and you must have been doing something with her. We was the only real class that she was actually attending each week. And for me, that was just like, you know, it's amazing to hear. And it was really like, and I actually invited, we did a charity day, and in the end, the charity day was like ex-professionals and famous people playing baby ball as coaches. And Anthony as well, and I rang him up, I said, do you want to be the manager for the celebs team? So he said, yeah. So he come down and he was the manager, and he's just, that story is just like, for me, was really nice to hear. And I think that when it comes to what do you do, there's so much where people don't think about what actually is, well, it's just a toddler football class. Unfortunately, you're not going to please everyone, but you know, when they look a bit more deeper in, if you want your child to be Messi at the age of 2, we're probably not the class for you. I'm going to be straight up and honest. we do football, obviously, but we're not going to be teaching them step overs. It's more of a whole, you know, learning colours, kicking the ball off the thing, not in a specific way, you know, but connecting that sort of. And if they come at 5 and they love football and then there's a little path for them, then great. If they don't, but they've learned a lot, then it's even better.
Yeah,
you know?
It's laying the foundations of so many things there, like you say, not just around football. It's around communicating with other children, and just their social skill sets, I guess they're developing, as well as some of those kind of numerical stuff and things like that as well, which are all really important. And I think so I've taken my kids to these classes and things, and until you go, you don't kind of realize actually this isn't about the sport or the singing or whatever it is that they're going to. It's about everything else that comes with it. And okay, if they want to continue, great. If not, at least they've got something out of it, which is good. So
true.
You mentioned about the charity event there. I wanted to find out kind of with your franchise partners nowadays and where they are. Do they ever get involved in kind of local community activities, or do you do things on a kind of nationwide scale?
I mean, Matt, who I've already mentioned, he does a lot over Christmas time. He does a lot for charity over Christmas time through Baby Ballers. I can't remember what it was, donating toys or things, but he collects things. So they do it on a. We encourage them to do it. We don't make them do it. We just say, look, it'd be great if you could get to do this and do things outside for your area. But we did used to do a charity football match. It was great, but I think since we've grown, it's quite hard to kind of do that now, because I just feel, I don't know. We since COVID we haven't done it, and I'm not sure if we're going to do another one. But that was we used to do it for Little Havens, which is I don't know if you heard it. It's a children's charity. It's a hospice, and they do great stuff. Like they've got like a little mini centre parks, is how I describe it. So when kids come sadly to the end of their coming to the end of their life, they'll go there and they live a really nice end of their life. And it's really sad, but what they do is great. So that's why we did a bit for them for a number of years.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. And yeah, of course, COVID's thrown everything up in the air, right? Like, I can see why things have stopped, but maybe it's just an opportunity to take a look at something from a different angle. Maybe there's a different way you can do it, or look at it better. And I'm sure, that's maybe sort of in your mind a little bit. But in terms of COVID, then, kind of how did you guys cope? Because obviously that's kind of 18 months of interruptions for classes, and not being able to see people face to face.
Yeah, it was a bit of a challenge. The biggest problem was it was as unknown to us as a franchisor as it was to everybody, all the franchisees. So we kind of can't, it was tough from our side, and probably, I mean, I made a decision because obviously, everybody knows how franchise works. There's a monthly fee, so we get passive income through our clubs as a whole. I made a decision, be it the right or wrong decision, I don't know, to actually turn around and say, do you know what? Let's stop all them fees. I don't, stop them incomes, even though as a franchise, we had outgoings. Obviously, naturally, we have big outgoings ourselves. But I said, I would rather all our clubs restart, all our franchises restart, whenever that may be, in a healthy place. So I tried to support them, and say, right, there's no more fees. You're not going to be running classes for a little while. And it was probably an error on my side, because actually, if we don't run, then they don't run. Luckily, we survived. Try and leave the business in a healthy state. So we survived, but it was a challenge for us. And I think that actually now head office could have done with that support to get us through, because obviously our outgoings didn't change. We've still got a building rental that we have staff in here that works. We've still got our website. Everyone could still book their kids onto classes when we return. Everything was operating normal apart from the clubs. So it was a challenge for us. Naturally, it was a challenge for the franchisees because they didn't have any income. They did do online Zooms, but half the world was doing online Zooms. So, I think our classes are very much all to do in person. And I think I didn't stop the guys from doing that. I said, look, if you want to do Zoom, do Zooms. but it's nowhere near the same. And they know they can charge the same because they didn't have the value.
Yeah. So what's it looking like today then? Because okay, you survived through that period, but you're talking about those other countries, and it sounds like there's some growth taking place. So there must be the demands back, and classes are started
definitely.
up again, right?
I have to say, when it restarted, the classes were as busy. Everyone was saying it seems the same busy. Everyone wants to get their kids out there and on classes, which is great because it shows that our society, they put their kids first, because there's no doubt in my mind that it was hard times for people.
You say that. I think that's parents had enough of their kids, maybe.
Well, I'd say that actually they have to attend the clubs with their kids. So
there you go. Yeah, there you
go. But yeah, no, you might be right. There might be an element of truth in that, or maybe shift the husband out.
Maybe that was the key. Just get the husband out of the house. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it was the busiest it's ever been, and since that we've not had one club that's stopped trading.
So you say that was a bit of a mistake, but if you've coped and survived and made it through, the value you're adding to your franchise partners it goes beyond.
That's it.
Goes beyond, doesn't it? And that will get repaid to you and the head office team in spades, I'm sure, in the long run. With loyalty repaid back. So I think these decisions that take place, you never know what's going to happen with them. But if you're doing them with good intentions, which sounds like you were, I think only positive things will come back to you. So yeah, I don't see it as a negative what you've done necessarily. You might feel it or the accountant may feel it, but
Yeah, it was a hit for us. It was a hit. I can't lie, but it's definitely what you're saying now. You're right in what you just said, that for me, there's not one franchise that's not back up and running, and that was the most important thing. They're all operating and operating really healthy, and we've from then we've recently just agreed to sell the whole of Northern Ireland, which is great, as a master license. Belgium has actually, believe it or not, since COVID actually only restarted 1st of September. So they're now back up and running, and running with an extra amount. I can't remember how many clubs. They're meant to be starting with 50. So we just need to check the update on that. But they're back up and running over there. And Australia is soon to be launched. So yeah, it's exciting. It is exciting. And we've actually had talks with people over in India as well. But however, with India, me and my brother made a decision that we need to kind of slow down a little bit and get a few things in place, because there's been a few stumbling blocks along the route. So that's next on the list.
Yeah, so it's all exciting stuff. So I want to kind of go back to kind of the franchise partners then, so the owners of the franchise licenses. Are they all actively coaching every single session? You mentioned one guy has got 4 clubs, so is he going around to 4 different sites and running them all himself?
No, not at all. I think that's actually the beauty of our business, because you've got lots of different options of how you want to run it. But we've got him himself. He's running 4. I think he's just opened another one as well. So could be 5. But he's employed 2 people. Okay. One an assistant and one as like a full-time kind of role is the idea, and he operates, coaches all them clubs, and Matt oversees them. And we've got the same situation with another guy. He actually owns quite a lot of territory. He's got over 800 kids attending his classes, and he has 2 people employed doing all the clubs. And getting on the social media side of things and jumping on that, and then he oversees them. So that's kind of your, we call them more of an area developer kind of role. Yeah. They've got multiple locations and they're developing them areas, and they want to kick on. But then you've got the opposite end, which is what works for them. Obviously your income is a lot lower and your profit's a lot lower, but if they've got a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, one club on a Saturday morning for 2 hours, it's a nice little cash earner, which may pay the mortgage or pay rent, and it's they'll coach it. So you've got different avenues.
It's interesting. I was just thinking as you was explaining the kind of two avenues almost. It's your brother and you, right? So yeah, you take the coaching model, he'd take the manager model, right? And
yeah, definitely. There's definitely. There is more money to be made in the if you was coaching and having the kind of, you could be coach and manager. Definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's cool. So is it? I was going to ask, is it kind of like a 40-hour a week kind of opportunity? But I guess it sounds like it depends what you want to make it, right? Like, so if you just want to kind of coach at the weekends, that's what you can do. If you want to turn it into a beer operation,
I think that if you're operating one club, and you can make a profit of one club, or profit on that, a successful club if you're coaching it as well, probably turning over 12 grand profit a year, which is for 2 hours a week of actual coaching, it's not that much, but all in all, it's only 6, only doing actually 6 hours a week work, in all honesty. You've got your admin side. If you're clever and you schedule posts through social media, replying to emails, everything's on subscriptions, so they don't really have to worry about that side of things. Really, 6 hours a week, for turning over 12 grand a year on that, it's not horrendous.
That sounds to me like maybe an opportunity for young people to look at, right, while they're operating other jobs, or maybe while they're studying or something like that, so
Ed, that's exactly what I tried to suggest. And unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, we grew, but I said that we should be hitting universities, because I think this is a great opportunity for people in universities. There's so many people that go to university and then go and work in Tesco's on the when actually this might suit them a lot better. 2 hours on a Saturday morning. And they could, and then a bit of admin throughout the week whilst they're studying. Well, it's a great opportunity, I think. And I said that we should try and do some seminars in universities. So I think I think that'd be the role that we should go down, just purely because I think there's opportunities for them.
I think, to be honest, if I was younger, because I mean, look, I was no professional footballer or anything like that, but that was the passion of mine at that age, was to be out there with friends, and playing football was a big part of it. I was 4 or 5 times a week doing 6-a-sides, 11-a-sides, whatever it was. Personally, I've always got on pretty well with children as well, probably the same mental age, maybe, I don't know, but
that's what I say.
It's they respond well to me, and that earning 12 grand a year for 6 hours rather than I was doing 90 hours for 20 grand or something like that. If someone would have shown that path to me, that would have been something I'd taken. So I see a lot of value in introducing this to younger people, and showing them that, actually you don't need to have every single skill set out there to run a business. You just need to have something that you want to do, have to drive to do it. And there's ways to outsource all that other stuff. That's exactly what you've done in your business model, right? You've outsourced it to your brother, but mainly it's from the sounds of things. But there's other people that can help you along the way, and that, in my mind, is what franchising is okay, find the thing that you want to do in, day out, and that you love doing, and get yes, okay, there's a fee, but that pays for all that support and guidance and shortcuts that route to you doing what you want to do, right?
A million percent. You're spot on. I think that also, I think the one drawback, and we have to put it in, but there's an investment involved with a franchise, and we're not a high investment but I think for the kind of student, that's the kind of worry, I suppose. But if we could work in a way that, I think that you're right. I think that your uni bod, I would describe it, is just a great fit for that kind of one location role, effectively.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Well, look, we're coming up for kind of 10 minutes left, really, I guess. So I've got a few more questions that I want to throw your way before I let you go. So The first one is any strange, weird, or funny stories that you've had in your career?
In my career, or in the franchising world?
Wherever you want to go with it. Wherever you want to go.
Oh wow, there's a lot. I don't know if it's probably good. I don't know if I can say it on here, but
I can imagine from the modelling world, there's a few.
Oh yeah, crazy things. You might have to come back to this one because I don't know. Yeah, you might have to come back to this one, Ed. But yeah, there's definitely been some funny experience during my modelling days. I will tell you a funny story quickly. There you go. When I didn't have much money, and I literally didn't have much at all in my modelling days. I remember going to a nightclub in the West End, and you know these nightclubs. And I went with a friend of mine, and I went with a couple of girls at the time, and we got into this nightclub, and these two girls left us for these guys that were on these tables.
Right.
And they've got a specific name, but we won't say it on here. And I had a few drinks, and I was like, right, this is not fair. Like we and my mate were now like completely elbowed. So I was like, right, Jamie, we're going to get a table, just me and you. And he went, they're well expensive. I went, we'll sort that out later. So being a chance, I was like, right, get us on that table. So we got a table, just me and Jamie. And they come back to us in the end. And by the point of 2:00, I was in all sorts of bother. I was like, and it was closing time.
Oh, God.
And they come up to me with this bill. And I was like, I remember this so well, but blurry-eyed, this bill. I mean, we are talking. I mean, I'm making myself sound like a right idiot. Just to let you know, this is a stupid thing to do. But I was like, Jesus, I don't know how I'm going to pay that. It was a lot. I mean, a lot for one night. And I'm 20 or something, whatever it was. And I didn't have that money. And I thought, right, well, just put the card in and see what happens. Of course, declined came up. And there must be something wrong with the card. I thought, try it again. Declined, happened again. And they was like, right, what are we going to do, mate? And I was like, I don't know at the moment. I was like, can I do an IOU?
An IOU.
Next thing I know, 2 bouncers come and grab me and pick me up from under my arms and sit me in the back room and sat me down, and they said, right, are you going to pay this? I went, oh, I don't know. And they said, well, I suggest you come up with something quite quick. Otherwise, I can't tell you what they actually said, because it would have been, it wouldn't have been a nice experience for me that evening. So on a midweek, I rang my stepdad, and I said, I've got a bit of a bother. And the bouncer happened on, the manager said, look, this is the situation. And he said, can you put him back on the phone for me? So I did. And he called me a terrible name. And then my stepdad and said, right, and he paid it, much to his disgust. And he said, right, you're paying this back as soon as you get paid. I said, no problem. So I ended up getting shifted out of the club quite quickly, never went back there ever again, and owing a lot of money to my stepdad at the time. So yeah, that was my funniest time. But I don't know if you can say that it's in the workplace. But yeah, but I had no money because I didn't have a job, proper job.
Oh my God! Yeah, what a mess to get yourself into.
What a mess. Try and be too big time if you can't. Champagne and lemonade. It's the what I was trying to be, I think.
Champagne on a lemonade budget, or whatever it is.
Exactly, that's it.
Yeah. And I think there's probably some clever lesson in there somewhere, isn't there, for everybody? Like, you know, I guess if you put it into an entrepreneurial perspective, you know, don't go out there buying flashy cars to impress people. It's not about that, right? You got to do the hard graft beforehand.
Million%. I drive a van. Is any consolation? I've got a camper van. So it's I 1,000,000%. Don't be that guy.
Yeah, all good lessons anyway. So proudest and most inspirational moment?
I think the one that I told you earlier about the little girl, that for me, it's always stuck for me. It's such a nice story. You know, I've helped her change her life. You know, she's still playing football, that girl.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, she still plays, and it's really helped her. And I think that's a really nice story. I think for me personally, I've heard a lot, how kids have developed, and maybe the child has ADHD and it's helped, or autistic. We have these children that attend, and it really helps them. Because we work on listening as well. That's part of the coach's job, to be fun with an element of strictness. I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but
structure.
That's it. All our sessions are structured. They're designed for structure, so the kids come in and they know where they're going. And I think that's kind of inspiration. That seeing a child develop through what we've done, I think is really quite inspiring for me.
Yeah, that's cool. It must be nice, sort of keeping tabs on them if it makes sense, and the parents are in touch with you. But yeah, that sounds.
And
cool.
Don't get me wrong, Ed. On the other side as well, we've had children that now that have attended our clubs and now are playing like for little academies or pre-academies. That's another one. This is the other end of the spectrum. Where I'm not saying our football skills develop that, but they have we may have helped develop their interest into football, and they've got a talent. So that's the other side, which is also really nice.
Yeah, so just a few more years, and you'll be seeing them in the Premier League. Maybe get some, get some.
With the Messi.
Yeah, I was going to say you get some free tickets, and then you might be able to get a director's box or something like that.
Yeah.
You'll get your table.
Exactly.
Cool. So. One final question then, and that's just around, so anybody who's looking to buy a franchise license off of any brands, whether it's yours or any others, what one piece of advice would you give to them?
I think, keeping on topic of what we've spoken about, I think it's, learn from previous employers and their mistakes, but also be prepared to learn from your mistakes, because you will make mistakes, and accept that you're going to make mistakes. And learn from them. And if you have that attitude, so if you're leaving the employment role and you're going to learn, actually see what mistakes you think that your boss, the director you're working for is doing, and think, well, actually, what would you change? And then when you take it on your own, and learn by your mistakes ongoing, because it's only this morning actually I had this conversation with someone. You will keep making mistakes throughout life, we all do, but that if you don't make mistakes, then you don't learn, and that when you're on your own, as long as you take that with you, I think, then actually you'll develop, and you'll keep developing. If you still got drive, don't let it put you off. Like, learn from it and make a difference going forward.
Yeah, really good advice. And you've been kind enough to share some of the challenges and mistakes maybe you've had in your life, and you've managed to make it, learn from them, and turn it into a successful business for yourself and now for others as well. So that makes a lot of sense. So Richard, thank you so much for sharing your time with us today. It's been really good to get to know you better and hear your stories. So thank you for that, and have a great day.
Yeah, thanks, Ed. Thanks for having me, mate. I've enjoyed it. It's been good fun.